Lesson 10. Lesson 10, we're talking about endpoints and the hardening process. So when we use the word hardening, we're talking about locking down or putting security configurations on a device, server, um, maybe a process. We're hardening a process where we're making it that much harder for it to be susceptible to an attack. So this is going to be for endpoints. You may have some hardening processes for servers as well. But 9 times out of 10, what they're going to ask you in the Security Plus is some configurations and how do they play a part in the hardening um, process of a Windows 10 machine or any type of endpoint. It may be a mobile device, but we'll go over some highlighted fields here, and we'll see what we can show in the second hour. So we start off with the operating system security when it comes to workstations and servers, having a hardening process where we turn off certain applications, maybe we turn off certain features, um, can be beneficial in a work environment. So I'm just going to start off by when I open my start menu, you can see that there's some applications that you might not want to see in a work environment, right? So Disney Plus, Prime Video, Instagram, Spotify, Xbox, Solitaire. Solitaire is a notorious way of getting unwanted software and other data onto your machine. But in a business environment, we may not want these applications to be on there. Prime Video, um, and so, in a configuration, in a hardening setting, we want to make sure when we're building and what we call an image, and we're going to base every endpoint off of that image, we're going to make sure that those applications are not on there. And we're pretty much starting with a clean slate. So, we may keep applications such as photos and mail and calendar, of course, the Microsoft suite, but we might want to take off 060, 0365. Maybe we're not using that. Maybe we're using the mail application. But it's all about, how does that company really want to actually have their images set up? And remember that I said yesterday, those images are set up using a software called Microsoft Configuration Manager. And they use that to build the image and then send that image out to PCs that are waiting on the network to receive that image and then create the settings in based off of that configuration. Now we could do the same thing for servers. I haven't seen a particular like checklist that I normally see for a desktop, but that checklist for a server, I would imagine being more locked down. I know for sure, like one of the hardening processes that we do for a server is that we don't allow any type of web traffic to go to a server. A server may be able to be on the web and be discoverable in the DNS settings, but as far as you going to a Microsoft Edge web browser on a server is not best practice, and so we tend to disable any type of web browsing on a server, and so that could be a part of your hardening process. So you want to have a baseline configuration, of course, um, and you try to hit all of these points, and it's not just these main things that you want to hit, but the things that stick out to you. And again, it really all comes back down to how are you actually running your business, and then based off of your business and its needs, we're gonna say this is the most secure way about going hardening the endpoint. Now, having a protection on those endpoints is important when it comes to um, having some type of antivirus or EDR, some type of agent that sits on that PC. And when I say agent, I'm talking more of um, like this. This is Exinium that I have popped up. This is an endpoint. This is a antivirus that I have running as a third party on my PC. It sits in this toolbar here, this little tool tray, and all of these are endpoints where they're applications that can be quickly called upon in the tool tray here. Um, Now, some of them they all do different things, right? So Microsoft Teams, we all know, is going to be more of an interactive application, whereas these two shields of Sophos and Microsoft Defender, they both perform the same function, as well as the Exinium. They all perform antivirus functions. Matter of fact, to even good more measure, I have an endpoint called Immuninet, which is an older antivirus, and I like to bring this one up just so I can show how things are out of date, but yet it does find some things that other antiviruses may not find. And so you can see here when I open it up, this goes back to when we were talking about having that out of date software. Immuninet has been discontinued. This company is no longer in business. The product is no longer connected to the cloud servers and is not protecting your computer. Please uninstall Immuninet and consider a different antivirus production for protection. So that's a great thing to put on there to let people know. Um, that this is what I'm saying, where you don't want to have someone or a company being kind of like your shop. You don't want it to just have all of their products into your environment, because if they go out of business, then you're kind of up the creek and you got to find something quick to replace this with. So that's a good example. But those are endpoints, right? And these endpoints, we want to make sure sometimes they can perform some of these actions here. Sometimes, um, in the case of Microsoft Defender, Defender cannot do as much as Xenium, and we'll go more in depth on these endpoints in the second hour. But we want to have some type of segmentation. They can take that computer and put it into a particular VLAN or isolate itself from the network where it's still receiving packets to have. Maybe we're using a SNMP port to communicate, and maybe remote into, but it's not a open port that's open up to the internet to where we're using a regular VPN, not a VPN, but a remote desktop to get to that actual PC. So we want to make sure that if we're going to use some type of antivirus or EDR, if they have this type of capabilities, segmentation and isolation. Nine times out of 10, a vendor will tell you that they can perform that or they cannot. But if do your due diligence and make sure that you ask those type of questions. Disencryption. So disencryption, we talked about it a little bit when it came to encryption. But having disencryption on your computers as well as your mobile devices is crucial. And that's pretty much just putting a password on the hard drive, being able to encrypt all of the sitting information. So, again, remember, when it comes to an encryption, we want to make sure we encrypt um, in traffic, while it's moving, while it's being used, and then while it's at rest. And so, if we can encrypt those things and those encrypt that data in those three settings, then we stand a good chance of, if it's ever in the wrong hands, they have a task of actually trying to break that code and get the key that they need to see the encrypted message or messages. So having that disencryption is very key. It's fairly easy in the mobile devices, and we'll get to those later. Patch management. Not all endpoint devices or endpoint protection agents provide this um, type of skill or resource. The patch management is sometimes held by a different agent. That's all it does, is that it's going to look for updates. And again, sometimes when it comes to Microsoft, at least Microsoft, a Microsoft patch management system is only going to see the updates for Microsoft products. It will not see the updates, or it may not see the updates for a third party vendor app. And especially if that app is, fairly new and it's just getting up and going. If that's the case, then Microsoft may kind of skip over that, and it will be on to you to get updates for every application that's on that PC. So EDR and XDR. So we're talking about endpoint protection, endpoint detection and response, and then extended detection and response. So when it comes to being able to have an agent on your PC, is one thing to detect. Remember when I said when it came to IDSs that these are the things that's going to write down the logs. But what makes a EDR so special is that it can see something going down wrong and then provide the correction to it and be able to respond to the malicious activity and either stop or roll back the settings that has been altered. Those are the special points of EDR. Extended XDR is more on having more range when it comes to long distance detection and response. So we're talking about things in a DMZ or um, a wide area network, and we need to actually provide protection across a larger scale of network. An extended detection response can talk back to these kind of a key points or check-in points, and they're able to update themselves and then update the agent on that particular machine. So I know XDR is kind of high speed, and that's my own language there, where it's kind of like I know a lot of novice or IT departments who are not up to speed on the latest and greatest. They probably are not looking into the XDR realm of just as of yet. So I do believe that it'll ramp up in the near future. Of course, you got uh host the intrusion detection and then host intrusion prevention systems. They're kind of like what I just went over, where one is going to detect and the other is going to protect or to actually take action. But the main thing that you want to know about this definition is that it's host based, so it's going to be directly have an agent on that particular PC or Mac and be able to communicate back to kind of like a command center. And that's the way we can have coverage down to the local level. I talked to yesterday about user behavior analytics and how it can be a ever changing type of process that a endpoint protection has to be accustomed to looking at and knowing what's normal, and then understanding that the information given to them next, if it's abnormal, then they need to perform a certain task, or they can actually, intervene and stop an attack from happening. Um, but I think and this is personal, I don't think this is on the test. I think personally, as we come along with AI and more AI is learning, having machine learning capabilities and understanding how a business actually runs on a 365 calendar date, then the behavior analytics will become more refined and be able to be more reliable in a real world settings. As of right now, it's just kind of it's hit or miss, and it's probably going to miss more than it hit for user analytics or user behavior analytics. Trying to do something there. Endpoint configurations. We talked about least privileges and ACLs yesterday. Remember, ACLs are Apple or um, access control lists are going to be network level, but also in the IAM section when it comes to those username and passwords. Um, I do want to show you guys a file system permissions, kind of like how do you give information or give permission to a individual on a particular document. How does that look in the real world? What do we do in real world scenarios to allow that to happen? Um, Having an application allow list and block list is important when it comes to uh, the hardening process. Like I alluded to earlier, where if we're not using certain applications or we don't need that functionality, let's go ahead and take those things off. So again, I bring up my start menu here, and you look at all the different applications that we could have allowed, and then what do we need to take off? What are we not using? Um, some of you guys may have never heard of Sophos. Maybe I should take that off. Especially if you're going about making some type of hardening process, we need to slim this down as much as possible. And the more you have, um, applications that you're not aware of, or you're not paying for, then it's the less you have to worry about those things being vulnerable later down the road. So we want to make sure we monitor as always, and I want to bring up group policies. So group policies is a way to, in the Windows world, be able to have a configuration for everyone in a particular group. And for this group, I'm going to say it's the legal group, right? So everybody within the legal department will be in a particular group, logically in Active Directory. And then what I can do is I can have certain settings in a group policy and have that automatically pushed to those individual accounts. And while I have those things pushed to those accounts, maybe I want all of them to print to a particular printer. I can push a group policy out that will help just those members of that group print to that particular printer. And it doesn't have to necessarily be within that let's say that floor that the legal department is in. Maybe it's in a different building, but once that they get on that building's network, I want the network to be able to look at their permissions and say, okay, since I have a new group policy update, it lets me know that these five people from the legal department have access to this printer or have access to this particular file that's on the file server. That's the way we because sometimes you don't want to just segment a computer. You might want to segment the account for the individual, because that person may jump from PC to PC, and they need their permissions to follow them, not necessarily be stuck on one PC. And so while we could probably put it at a local level and make you an admin of a document on a particular PC, soon as you go to a different PC and you log in with those same credentials, as a user, you're probably looking to have that same effect on that new PC. And so group policy is a great way to alleviate that pain. So encryption when it comes to hardening techniques is we're going to be looking at virtual private networks, VPNs. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with VPNs when it comes to the concentrators that they have, and then what type of network that they're trying to connect to. So having that VPN again is going to use encryption for the communication around your data to the endpoints data, and um, be able to encrypt that data going back and forth. And it's going to also give you the field as if you're in the office. So all the things that you would have access to it as a resource, you're going to have access to when you connect to the VPN, because it creates that. It's almost like an extension of the network outside of the building to your particular home. but it goes over the public network, which is the internet. And when it gets to your home, then you could treat your Wi-Fi as if you were in the office. Okay. Email encryption is another technique that we can use where we are sending things encrypted across the network, of course. But we also can use that encryption or use that place of entry when it comes to the emails to either block out any type of unwanted mail, a lot of spam, or any type of severe phishing campaigns that may come in. Um, and so having that email, having that data point or that entry point for the email is very important to have things there. When it comes to email encryption, we definitely want to be sending our emails over a secure network just because of all of the sensitive data that they could end up you could have an attachment that has very sensitive numbers attached to it, or some company secrets that attach to that email, and you want to make sure that it has being carried over the internet in a secure manner. I already went over removing unnecessary software, but I feel like I can always say it again. If you sit down with individuals in the department and you're looking at a list of software, maybe it'd be easy to go through a list of software, maybe like 100, right? 100 different softwares, and you can determine if those softwares is needed to actually to perform daily tasks in the company. And if it's not, then we just need to set up a time and date for the change request to actually have that rollback or uninstall that particular application. Are you going to get some pushback for it in the real world? Not from the higher ups. Your higher ups are going to always understand giving someone the least amount to work with, which sounds kind of bad, but at the same time, it shrinks that footprint that we've been talking about. And but from a normal employee standpoint, and just being able to do extra stuff, maybe be more resourceful in your day-to-day job, removing those unnecessary software might end up in a ticket because they're going to ask for those software back or some of those applications back. They may not even remember some of them. I've seen plenty of times where we would take things away that no one's using, but as soon as we take it away, that's when somebody you'll figure out who's using it very quickly. Because if they're using it on a day-to-day basis and you take it away, they're gonna be the first one to say, "Hey, I used to have this, I don't have it anymore. Have it anymore. And you provide it back to me." Excuse me. So hardening the specialized devices. Do you guys remember when I talked about the SCADA machines or the industrial machines, and how do we, they are very basic. They may be old and out of date. IoT devices. These are, they have a special hardening process, but it should be, I think they should be more strict than anything, because we want to make sure that we keep the main function functioning and not necessarily um choke out the actual networking part of it, um or give it too much information to where we create some type of denial of service ourselves. So having some type of strict segmentation for these type of devices is key. If you can isolate it and keep a network connection to it, but not let it get to the internet. And when I say the internet, meaning they can't Google YouTube, or they can't go to a particular social media site, any type of website. but from another endpoint, it can directly talk, then I think that's what we are looking for when it comes to a strict network segmentation. Um, you want to have of course, a robust authentication, which in my mind means two-factor authentication. It's not just having that username and password. We also want to make sure that um, we have some type of token to go along with it. We have some type of process that we need to do in order to solidify what we know as a username and password. So in the book, we started, this will be the kind of the halfway point in lesson 10, but it starts to go into the mobile device hardening side of it. And this is where it gets kind of fun for me, because a lot of people are not familiar with bringing their phone to work, but yet our phones are always intertwined with work. And so, as a security professional, you have to take these things in consideration, that your data may end up on someone's personal phone. And if that's the case, you have almost forfeited your privacy rights. Well, let me take that back. You almost forfeited the right to have total control over that data, because it goes on someone's personal device. And so you just can't have any jurisdiction over someone's personal device if they didn't give you that type of jurisdiction, which is probably going to end up in a policy or something like that, right? And so when it comes to mobile devices, you want to make sure that you are stepping correctly, because it's not where when I first started IT, where cell phones may come into play. You normally, when I first started in 2007, I only seen maybe top notch colonels and generals really have a BlackBerry that would access their emails. And we didn't really think much of it then, but then now that I think back on it, being able to have access to an email, you would need that encrypted, right? um well, I couldn't say that any other phone back in the day actually did that encryption other than BlackBerry. Which make you think on why BlackBerry didn't really make it in today's world. But um it's just something they kind of got left behind in. But anyway, you have different deployment models when it comes to mobile devices. You can bring your own device, right? Or you can have a company owned device, but you can only use it for business. You can have a company owned device, and it can also have personal benefits to it, which is the personal enabled cope. And then you got choose your own device. And so bring your own device is pretty much self-explanatory, right? The company is not so big to where they want to give you a phone, but they want to have 24/7 contact information with you. And so they may take your phone number and put it up on a share drive that people can call you 24/7, right? The thing about that is that if you are using your phone to access on premise data or even cloud data of a system for that company, then you need to be mindful. I'm not going to say that they own your phone, but you need to be mindful that you are performing those actions on your personal device. Okay. Now, corporate owned, business only, exactly what it sounds like. They're going to give you a phone, give you a phone number, and they're going to have what we call a mobile device management system monitor that actual device, and anything that you download on it will be scanned and or probed when it comes to what is it, and then should it be on this device. In turn, though, you can put the emails on there, put any type of files on it. You don't have to really worry about doing personal things on this device, because you're not technically allowed to do those things on that particular device, right? Um, and they can have that management system that I alluded to. They can have the applications set to what they want you to have and what they will allow on those PCs. And I can show you that. I can show you guys that in the next hour. Corporate owned, personal enabled. So we're talking about them giving you a phone, um, and they're paying for that bill, but you can use it for personal use as well. I would still say, be careful in this realm, just because if you do go to certain sites, or if you go by and contract something on that device, then it's subject. I mean, whatever the higher up management will do to you, I have no idea. It's really it goes to, business to business, or how they actually discipline people. But I'm pretty sure you'll have some type of policy that you already have agreed to when it came to this phone or tablet, and you just need to uphold those things. All right, finally, we got choose your own device. And not to complicate things, this is pretty much they have a choice of phones. So some companies want to be a Apple shop, they want to be a Android shop. Me personally, I don't care which one, and I don't think either is more important than the other. I do find that Apple products are easier to um, explain to people, especially older folks. They're able to get a Apple product more than what a person would with a Samsung. And a Samsung or Android is more based off of power users. So you're probably going to be, constantly using the phone to its full extent. Whereas Apple is not really based on that. So choose your own devices that, they have different devices that you could choose from. And then it'll then go into, hey, you can put personal stuff on this, or just use this strictly as a business only device. MDM here, we already talked about this device management system, but I will need to show you guys that in the second hour. Having that device, having it part of its encryption is very important. I would also say that that's probably like a standard that needs to be across the board, where you need to put a PIN number or a password on that device so it can be automatically encrypted. And, just in case someone loses it, then you don't have to worry about them cracking into the hard drive just that easy. So I want to go back to this first highlighted thing: is mobile devices are more prone to be physically lost or theft, which is, is true, right? Where, as sometimes these companies, they have money into the new uh mobile device budget, and so they don't just get the old iPhone XX, XS, or the iPhone 12. They're going to get the latest and greatest. And, they have a budget for that. And so people people that they give that to, sometimes they may be senior management, and they may be up there in age. And so while on their business trips, it's easy to on a flight, or they hope, 1,200 away. And so if that's the case, then you need to use this mobile device management system in order to remote wipe that particular device. And that's a key factor when it comes to mobile device management, is being able to see that device from anywhere in the world, and being able to wipe it from anywhere in the world as well. And that overrides that external media encryption. So next slide, we got having that full distance encryption. and external media. Uh, to really step onto the external media factor, when you're talking about plugging things into a USB or bringing something from the outside realm into your computer, best practices is not to use that. Right? We don't want to have things plugging into our PCs and mounting the hard drive. What I mean by that is when you plug in, if you go to your job and you plug in your iPhone to your laptop, we don't want your laptop to show your iPhone as a hard drive. You get what I'm saying? And if it does show it at a hard as a hard drive, then what's stopping me from putting sensitive information from the regular PC onto your phone and then taking that phone out? Especially if it's your bring your own device type of phone. And now you're plugging that into your computer because it's a you want to have a charge. But who's to say that it doesn't mount automatically on the C drive and be able to just be used as a storage, an extended storage on your computer. So you definitely don't want that. I've been in places where we have disabled the USB ports, but lately I haven't really seen that. I think that a lot of times people are buying software that can detect when someone physically plugs in another USB, especially if it goes to some type of hard drive. I also have this highlighted when it comes to the iOS is that data protection is encrypted once you put on that pin. You and which is a great thing because if you ever set up a iPhone or an iPad, they really make you use a pin number, and you're not really able to. You could skip over it, but they're so adamant and they're so buggy. If you do skip over it, they're going to constantly keep asking you, hey, put a password on it, put a password on it. And then once you do that, again, once you set that password, it sets a encryption over the hard drive, which is a great thing. But I know for some people, remembering those pin numbers is not necessarily something that they want to do. So location services, uh, the ones that you need to be concerned with is the GPS, geofencing, and then GPS tagging. So I'll start with GPS tagging just because you know, when you're looking at screenshots like this, you're going to be able to tag certain mobile devices, and that tag is going to help you identify what device it is, just by looking at it and not necessarily having to drill down into the details of that entry to figure out what's going on. The GPS part of it helps out when I was giving the example of someone leaving their phone on a flight or on a train or what have you, and now we need to locate where is that phone. If we can, have that phone constantly talking to the satellites that's orbiting the Earth, then we can always have a lock in on at least where and what city is that mobile device in. It may not get down to the actual, feet and inches away as it is from you, but at least you could tell if it's at your house or across the street. Um, Geofencing. Now, geofencing, I want you guys to think about if you were looking at the a bird's eye view of a building. Let's take yeah, any building, any kind of corporate building, and you're looking at it from the top down. Um, Geofencing will be some type of invisible line that's outside, or let's say fenced around that building. And whenever you are taking that phone outside of that fence, that invisible fence, the network seems to don't work. You're not able to really work your phone the way you want to because it drops the configurations based off of its positioning in that particular fence, that invisible fence, right? So if you leave outside that fence, then you pretty much just got a brick on your hands. Um, which is very good, right? As far as security is concerned. But you can also just give it a little bit of thought on how much problems that can be if someone is not in a particular area and being able to access the internet when they need to be. So geofencing is great, and I think it's great for certain reasons, but it's definitely not something that I would consider to be a best practice. Cellular and GPS connection methods. So we're talking about how you actually connect into the internet via your phone, and it's really kind of just one way. Maybe well, it's more ways, and we'll go over that. But the main way it will be your cellular data plan or Wi-Fi. Um, Now we all know about Wi-Fi and what we want to connect to and what we don't want to. I'll go over that in the next slide just shortly, but we got to understand that cellular devices, cellular data plans is just, I don't know how to make the correlation, but the data plan and your Wi-Fi kind of are the same. It's just one you pay for. Um, well, you pay for the Wi-Fi too, but you just don't pay on a light phone bill for. Well, maybe you do. Bad example. But anyway, um, you can always have that as a secondary network um, when it comes to troubleshooting. You could be troubleshooting a Wi-Fi signal and it's crappy, and yet you want to have that endpoint connect to another um, non-crappy network, and you can use your cellular and your mobile data plan in order to create a totally different IP address that won't be detected, and well, it won't have the cookies showing that it was on that network before. So therefore, a lot of things should work because it's not, maybe it's not proxy in a certain way, maybe it's not monitored in a certain way, so it's not filtered. And having that cellular option is big. Some companies may give you a data plan that can cover that. Um, Everyone that I've been with pretty much covered the data plan, and it's unlimited. So it's not, something that I don't use on a day-to-day basis. I use it to hold my conversations, especially if I'm talking over Teams or something like that, and I need the whole computer to do something, but yet I want to talk to that person over the phone. Um, but you just gotta make sure that if you are going to receive a phone from a company, that they one give you unlimited minutes, but at the same time, we need to have some type of VPN in order to not only create a network, but create some type of secure network from the cellular device. All right, not that many slides today, just this last slide. So we got the Wi-Fi, and I already kind of hinted at that. Having that Wi-Fi connect to a mobile device is big. That's how it's normally gonna, connect first, and then it'll look for other ways of connecting if no areas of Wi-Fi is present. And a lot of times, if it's not present, then it will look for to use this data plan in order to have that communication going back and forth. Um, You also want to make sure that you are on the lookout for evil twin networks or rogue networks. So an example of that is that if I go back down here to my Wi-Fi settings and I'm looking for a different SSID to connect to, uh, evil twin or a rogue network will be a router that I'm not familiar with, and evil twin comes about where they may call their router Mitchell router 2 or Mitchell router 3, and it throws me off. It's named similar, but I know that I didn't set this up. And so having that can be the first indication of an evil twin. If you so happen to connect this a particular network like that, then you're susceptible for giving up information on that network. Because remember how I talked about yesterday how we could do a scan to make sure that you're okay to get onto our network. What's to say that I can't do a scan to make sure that you're a perfect victim as you get onto my evil my evil twin network or rogue network, right? And so you want to be cautious of those naming conventions. If you see something that's double similar to what I got here, whereas Mitchell Main and then Mitchell Main 5G, which is the 5G is just something different, but it's similar. Is what I'm trying to get at. And you decide to go ahead and get onto the Mitchell Main 5G, then I can do a pre-scan of your PC, and then maybe um, install some things on that initial connection to my network. So just be mindful of that. Tethering and then hotspots, and then we'll take a break. Um, you don't really see too many people tethering their phones to a computer nowadays. Wi-Fi is so prevalent now to where you kind of look old school if you're pulling out the tethering, and there ain't no kind of look. You do look old school. So being able to, at this point in time, you could take some Samsungs and plug them up to your to your monitor and use it as a particular desktop computer. So tethering is kind of old school, where it would take the data plan and use that data plan kind of as a Wi-Fi signal, and you would use your laptop to connect to that particular phone in order to have Wi-Fi signals. Same thing when it comes to hotspots. Hotspots are things that you set up in your phone that creates a Wi-Fi signal, and in with that signal, then you get, of course, Wi-Fi access. Is there any questions about lesson 10? Kind of ran through that one, but we're still 10 minutes before time. Uh, let's go ahead and take our break. Let's be back at. This is Exidium. I showed you this platform before, but this platform is my EDR system that I have for learning purposes, training purposes. Uh, and this is where I can go to actually see um, a list of devices that I have under its control. This is a dashboard. This is something similar to what, when you become cybersecurity analysts or technicians, you will see something similar to this, right? And you'll be able to get at a good glance what's going on here from a endpoint detection and response rules. So it can detect, you know, what PCs we have on the network. But then, you know, with that detection, we go with the profile. What do we have installed on them? These are the agents that they have installed, and then some agents actually have more features installed. So, like a firewall feature, a AV feature, or EDR feature, right? So the AV is different than the EDR system. That AV is probably just going to do a scan, but it's not going to respond such as a EDR can respond in this system. If you take a look here, though, you also can see that it has a patch column too, where we could see exactly how many patches we're probably missing on this particular device. And then we can look to see if we want to push that to that device, or if we just want to hold it off until the next patch cycle. So this is very, it's more robust than a antivirus uh, dashboard would be, but it can also still do the same things as far as um, highlighting a particular um, PC and then performing a scan. And then, real quick, just to explain the antivirus scans, real quick, you could do a quick scan. on a PC, and what that is going to do is it'll download the latest definitions. And remember, when I said the definitions are how we actually tell what a virus looks like and how it performs, how it acts. And so it gets the latest and greatest of definitions, and then it applies that for a quick scan of the hot spots on your PC that a virus may hide out at. So it'll be, more likely your downloads folder, the C drive, program files on your folder within your hard drive, recycle bin, places like that. We'll go ahead and do a quick scan of those things. Maybe take 15 to 20 minutes to do. It's really all according on how many files you have in those folders, and then it will report back with a report. Now you could do a full scan, and that full scan may take anywhere from 3 hours to 6 hours, according to how much that you actually have on that PC. A lot of times, if I'm doing a full scan, I'm going to do a full scan at night and look at the results in the morning. Um, but your basic antivirus will be able to do that, those type of things, but EDR is going to take it a little bit further. So we can go into the enterprise section of this and look at the endpoints, and we could see that we have alerts, and then we actually got a malware detection, and we can not only look into that, but we could see just where was it found at. um we can look at the event time, but the most important thing is that it went there and it quarantined this particular malware. And so now we can either, if this was the real world, we'll want to go ahead and report this to our manager, and then reach out to the user and say, um, there's a good chance that we probably need to change all your passwords and get you a new computer if it's possible. You may not have any in inventory. So based off of what your situation calls for. But this is what an EDR can do for you. But not only this, it could, um, you can go in and see if these actions actually kicked off anything else, and dig deeper into the actions of what actually happened with this virus. And so when you are digging more closely into what's actually going on with a virus, this is what we're calling threat hunting, or is deeper analysis of actually what an analyst would do on a day-to-day basis. And so having something like this, for practice sake, this could get you, some valuable resource time, some valuable skills that you could put on that resume. So anybody who is intrigued, if you want me to get you access to this, it's no problem for me to, get you signed up and just get your a login, so you can log in from your computer and just go around and just find your way around these type of platforms, because they're all kind of the same. And so it's, if you learn Exidium, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go into a CrowdStrike, or a another big one would be Bitdefender, and be able to understand what you're looking at as well. And a lot of times it's just going to tell you exactly what it is, right? So it's not hard to really look at it and say, okay, any kind of block threats are here. No. All right. So let's go back to the regular platform, and then look at some of the categories that we got over here. Um, and let's see what's on next on my list is, we already went over antivirus, but um, and I'm gonna stay into the platform here so I can cover MDM, and I'll just cover data loss prevention too. So while I'm here, I'm gonna just show you data loss prevention. And no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna hold that until we actually bring that up. I think that's tomorrow. But this type of platform goes over all of that. Well, it gives you a option to have it, and by me having these are actual um, live agents out here, so you can have. I feel like this is real live resources you can touch and say I have experience with pushing um, patches to a particular PC that needed it, right? So I could check for the updates. It sends it out to that particular PC, which is this one. And then you can check to see, okay, I'm going to send these three, right? Or these two. No, I'm put three. And then I can go back up there and I can hit install patches, right? Okay, it's not installed. Did we check over here to the status side? It actually says it's installed. So is there any that we could install? Get out of here. All right, this one's available, right? So we can look at it, we can dive into it, install this update to resolve the issues of Windows. I think we already went over the importance of patches, right? But you can always, it gives you a link to that actual KB. You can read more into it. And then just for, practice purposes, you can go back to that list. Where was I? Man, I lost it. Go back to device list. I was on this one. And let's go back to patch management. And then we said available. We can say highlight and then install patch. Select patches will be installed. Do you agree to install them? You have my permission to go ahead and push any kind of patch. It's not going to stop me in any type of way. So, but the real thing about it is that uh, this list here is not just everything that's in my home. This is 4 or 5 different homes that's not in my grasp. So we're all over the state of South Carolina when it comes to these agents. I think these two are in Columbia, South Carolina, and then some are in Georgetown and different spots in the state of South Carolina. So um, it's a good way to see live agents. Now let's go over to the mobile management side of it. So this is what I was talking about when it comes to mobile management. So matter of fact, let's go back to devices, and you've seen how I have some iPads already um, on this device or in this the dashboard, and it should have the location. So this is where my GPS comes into play, so I can see where it's at. Right. Um, I can even get the longitude, latitude. That's great. And the last time it checked in, which was in July. So what does that tell me? Either maybe I took this off of that PC or that iPad, or it's broken as far as the communication back to the main dashboard. And this might be something to look into. But this is a great way to look at the configurations of the baseline configurations, because now we can see the install apps. Maybe we want these things, maybe we don't, but we could take a look at all of them. And it's just like how you would do it in a real world scenario, right? If you give this iPad to Johnny and then you see that he put on fantasy football and we don't want that, guess what? We can click on fantasy, we can see who has it, and then what we can do is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we could say install apps. I should be able to uninstall that app. But I don't. But I don't want to wipe it. But it gives me that option too, and I definitely wanted to bring that up to you guys. But It should be application actually. Mobile applications, and I can go to fantasy. Uh, fantasy right here, and we could say, what do we want to do? Does it give me options? Let's go back. Should give me options here to um, remove from those devices. But I guess that's something I have to look into. Why it's not populating like that? But as you can see, this is across the board too, where we can see all of the apps that are installed on those iPhone, iPads, and I think I have some Android devices too, um, to give you a different variety of working with Androids, which is no different, right? So this tab P11, no different um, than what you would see with a regular tab. It's just really gonna what you're concerned with is just the OS and maybe the RAM. Um, but then more importantly, when it comes to mobile devices, you're gonna be more concerned with the apps that are installed and if they're up to date. Um, so here, and maybe because it has the MDM on it, I'm able to uninstall. Let's go back and take a look at it real quick. Who has the MDM installed on there? And it's only one device. That peaked at that. Okay, no, the iPad should have it too. All of these should have it. Install. I had to look into that. That's interesting. But anyway, profiles. We can have profiles on these. This is kind of like how I was talking about GPOs or group policies. This is similar to that, where I'm everybody who has a iPad or some type of tablet, I can put them in a particular group and have that group be monitored by this profile. And this profile will set the precedence of what you can and cannot do. So with this profile, these machines are under that, and then can I show the restrictions? Here is what you can and cannot do while you're under this profile. Okay, and if I needed to edit it, I can go in and uncheck it. But I can allow that user to install apps, uninstall apps, right? Um, I have the power to turn off iMessage if I don't want them to use that. Turn off the camera if I don't want them to use a camera, but maybe I do want them to use the camera, but not FaceTime. Um, turn on the personal hotspot. So you can see how granular it can get with the right mobile device management system and just how much you can allow. And these are the things you want to take in consideration because if you come into a business and you gun ho, you just gonna block everything, then you're gonna take away a lot of functionalities for people, and they're not gonna like it, and you're gonna hear about it. But even if you were to take away something like this, where causes an airdrop to be considered an unmanaged target drop target, if you were to take that off, someone may complain about not having. And you would think, who is really using airdrops because of the age limit of who has these devices, right? Not saying that you guys don't use airdrops. I'm pretty sure you do, but I'm pretty sure older folks who have iPhones are probably not using airdrops. But then again, what do I know? I'm an Android user, so I don't know. It probably is a more convenient thing to do. So all these things can be, configurable. And this is its own lane too. So when it comes to like filling out those job applications, being able to say that you have experience in mobile management, it's big. It's real big. I mean, it's not Intune. Intune is by Microsoft, but to be able to understand that you can be this regular file, I think a lot of companies look for that. I think that'll stand out more than anybody else applying for the job. I would go on a limb and say that. Now, if I give you access to this platform, before you make a change, please just hit me up and just say, hey, I want to make this change. Just go over with me what that change is before you lock down somebody's workstation, because this is like real live people's workstations, So just in case. Okay. So that's it for the exiting part of it. We'll jump back into it again tomorrow. And then I got file permissions that I wanted to show you guys. So when it comes to file permissions, we were talking about least privilege, and I wanted to show that. Hold on, let me think. I wanted to show that to you guys. And so how I got to that, this little block right here. Let me start back over. I'm gonna pull this over and go to my downloads. I guess I could have did it right here. So I could take a particular any particular file. So let's take this cover letter, right? And I right click on it, and then I go to properties. And what I could do in the properties here is now I can set a least privilege type of a ACL, so to say, where that SS level, that SS control list could be dealt with in the security tab. And what I can do is I can add people to it or take people away. And when I do add them, I can allow them to do certain things to this particular file, right? So if I'm in an environment where I don't want you can read the file, but you're not allowed to change not one dot on that file. You would just only get read only. And that goes across the board when it comes to any type of tool that you're using. Or let's say if you're an administrator over a tool, and then you got a third party vendor that you're working with, and they need access to it, give them read only access only. If you don't know where to do that in that tool, ask your higher up, and they should be able to point that out to you. But for the sake of argument, for sake of showing you this here, for this file, we can always go to edit, and then we can add someone, but it would have to be someone that's in that Active Directory, a user that's there, and be able to add them here from the users, right? And then they'll show up here in this user or group names. Now I can also add like the group, the legal group, if I had that group created, and add it there. And once I add them, then I get to let them have full control, modify, so they can. Full control is exactly what it is. They can create, add to, take away, and then delete the file, or create another file based off of that file, right? Or they can modify. They can only change the contents within. They can read but execute. And this, when it comes to having actual applications that you can launch, um, some people can have access to just that's all they think they need is just to be able to look at it, be able to open it, but then be able to start it and run it, but not necessarily change the code and modify it, right? So they can read it and then execute and tell it to start. Then you got the basic read and write. They are what they are. Write is just it's no different than modify, in my opinion. And then you got special permissions. I haven't really seen anyone use special permissions, but um, this is the basis of least privilege when it comes to the username and password realm, or identity access and management. This is how you're gonna um, give people only enough access to do their job, right? I'm not going to give you full control. I'm going to give you only thing you need to do in order to do your job is read it. There you go. I'm going to give you read. There you go. Have fun. But soon as you want to change something, you got to put it in a ticket, and I have to take that up with your boss in order to change the permissions for you. So that works when it comes to, let's just say you get compromised, your account gets compromised, and now you have someone else using your account. Well, if I gave you least privilege, I'm not worried as much about them going and making lateral movements in documents to see sensitive information, because I've locked you down from things that you don't deserve to see. And that's least privilege coming from a file permission standpoint. That's all I had. Any questions?